This book is dedicated to good fathers, both those whom we are fortunate enough to have with us and those whom we would give anything to have with us again. Prologue. Leslie Mayflower glowered out between the dusty blinds of his darkened living room, watching the street. The morning sun made him squint his bleary eyes, bringing forth a pounding in the back of his head. He wasn't sure which to curse harder, the sun or the empty bottle of whiskey in his grip. Or maybe the other empty bottle on the couch behind him, or perhaps the broken one he'd thrown against the fridge the night before. It was simpler to just curse himself. The phone rang, brash and blaring. He hardly recognized the sound. The assault on his head redoubled, but at least he was certain what to curse above all else. He pawed at the receiver without taking his eyes from the window. The base fell to the floor and he left it there. He held the plastic handset to his ear. "Yeah," his voice croaked. He couldn't remember how many days it had been since he'd last spoken. "Damien Greaves calling for Les Mayflower, please." The voice was calm and authoritative, and familiar. "Bastard," Mayflower growled. "Ah, it is you," Greaves replied. "Not interested. Les, just listen." Mayflower didn't listen. He dropped the handset and stomped on the bass until the tinny sound stopped. He turned his attention to what really mattered. Across the street, Sarah was pruning her roses. The kids were at school for the day, and she had Thursdays off. She usually spent her days off in her garden, enjoying the empty street until the rest of the neighborhood returned in the afternoon. He sometimes watched her live her quiet morning out, peacefully, and found something like peace in that for himself. The front pocket of his flannel robe began to buzz, and he twitched his stance a few inches wider on instinct. He grunted and withdrew his confounded cell phone from his pocket, glaring at the small screen on the front. It read simply, "Unknown." "Unknown my ass," he said. He snarled and snapped the phone open. "Go to hell." He swigged one last time from his whiskey bottle, receiving only a couple of drops for his trouble. He sat it alongside the others that lined his coffee table and opened the front door. He went outside, his passage disturbing countless days of accumulated dust, which swirled in the blinding beams that poured into his house. "Mayflower, please," Greaves said, his voice smaller and more static on the old cell. "It's important." The sun seemed very upset that Mayflower had left his hideout, redoubling its efforts to split his head in two from front to back. He focused his annoyance on Greaves. "I'm in the middle of something," he lied. "It can wait. You don't know that. Whatever it is, it can wait. I've got something bigger. Handle it yourself. I'm retired." He made as though he was inspecting the stability of his paint-peeled picket fence. He confirmed it was just as rickety as the letters he consistently received from his neighborhood association of asshats claimed. "Men like us can't retire, you know that." Mayflower stopped cold. He felt his teeth grind and his old heart begin to thrum. Not faster, but harder, like it was suddenly wrapped in taut wires. The pumping blood made his muscles tense and ache. "Men like us," he said, his voice a whisper. "You and I are nothing alike, witch." "I disagree. Go to hell, Greaves." He snapped the phone shut and popped out the battery, shoving them both back into the pocket of his robe. Across the street, Sarah looked up and saw him. She smiled beneath the wide brim of her sun hat and waved a dirt-stained glove at him. He managed a tight-lipped smile back, but his stomach twisted and he retreated into the dark of his hollow home. He shut the door behind him and leaned back against it. He growled, ripped a cigarette from the crumpled pack in his robe pocket and lit it, drawing in a deep breath of scorching heat. He held the smoke in his chest for a moment before letting it slip out, then went toward his diminishing liquor cabinet to fetch a new bottle of whiskey. He stopped in front of the fridge, his feet crunching on broken glass from the bottle he had smashed against it last night. The icebox was a blank white canvas, save for a single sun-bleached sticky note at its center. The adhesive had long since failed, so he had used a magnet to keep it in place.